The college football experience, FCS style Patriot League preview on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Bird Dog Shorts. Dominate summer with an amazing pair of shorts and a free Yeti style tumbler when you order over at birddogs.com/pool. Once again, that is birddogs.com/pool.
Hey, what's up, you degenerate gamblers? This is Bill Burr, and you're listening to SGPN. Let it ride, baby.
Yes. Woo! Welcome to the FCS college football experience. Patriot League style. I figured we'd have to start with the Patriot League since the 4th of July is right around the corner. Give the Patriots out there something to listen to regarding the old Patriot League. And look, perhaps you're just wondering, what the hell am I doing here yelling at you? Well, and maybe you're wondering just who the hell I am. All right. Well, my name is Colby Swinging Database Dat, AKA Pick Dundee. That's not a pick. This is a pick.
He was raised in the land down under, where a man thinks on his feet, speaks with his fists, and lives by his wits.
When Dundee happened, he was a superstar.
I'm probably drinking too much and celebrating too much and not sleeping. I would have killed a normal man, but no, that's gone. The medical advice I got from that was like being hit by lightning. Pretend it never happened and get on with your life.
And you're nothing but a chameleon, lemon-headed, coward, terrorist pussy. And I'm after you, buddy. You're going to pay for it. Good night.
Oh, the Patriot League, the same league that sent 2 teams to the playoffs last year. And you could make the argument that the winner of the Patriot League last year, okay, the Holy Cross Crusaders, played South Dakota State as well as any. It was tied up in the 4th quarter. So what's not to like about the Patriot League? All right, the history in this league, unbelievable. I can't wait to talk about it with my friend. Give it up for my co-host. We call him Gulf Coast Guru as well. But I give you Mike Rose. How you doing, Mike? And excited to talk a little Patriot League ball with you, man.
Yeah, dude, I'm excited to be on this one. Technical difficulties kept me out last week. Technical difficulties with like my whole life last week, but bottom line, I was in Florida with no air conditioning. It was bad. I was sweating all over the place. The computer didn't want to work, but man, I may not have been born on the 4th of July like Ron Kovac, but hey, let's talk some Patriot League football leading up to the holiday. I love it. Great idea here, genius. Yes.
And shout out to Durko Gaming. He says, FCS makes me horny. Well, you got to love FCS football. It is, football is just, and FCS has a true playoff where like they have automatic bids. You know what I mean? Like, I love the FBS, but they're lacking. They need to get the auto bid situation figured out for every conference. But that's what we have in the FCS. And the Patriot League, like I said, two teams made it to the FCS playoffs a year ago, Fordham and Holy Cross. We're going to be talking all about them. And we're going to try to just go quickly. This isn't probably going to be a super long. It's not a super. This isn't one of the new Big Ten or SEC. There's not 16 teams in a conference. All right. There's a limited amount that we're going to talk about, but we're going to give out our projections, talk a little bit about the history. And so it's probably not going to be that long of an episode, but just know we're going to preview every conference. All right. We're just getting started on the FCS college football experience. So subscribe, tell a friend. It's coming. The road to Frisco. But I want to tell you before we get into all that the FCS Gambling Podcast, the FCS College Football Experience. I just did the USFL Gambling Podcast, so my apologies. Subscribe to that one as their championship game is happening right now. But we're brought to you by Bird Dogs. Yes, Bird Dogs make you look good. Yes, Bird Dogs are stretch khaki shorts, and they are designed to fit slimmer through the thigh and leg, giving you a truly sculpted look. Hey, the FCS has pumped out a shit ton of very good players. All right, Walter Payton, Jerry Rice. You can go on and on and on. Trey Lance, most recently, but also, I mean, you can go Gil Fenerty. All right, he was a Holy Cross Crusader. All right, you can go one by one. Vince Lombardi comes from this fine conference as well. So, look, we're gonna make you look like that. You're gonna be looking like Walter Payton or Gil Fenerty if you throw on some Bird Dog shorts. All right, they fit way better than regular shorts. Regular shorts are made of stiff, restricting cotton. Bird Dogs fixed this issue by inventing cloud knit fabric. It looks just like khakis, but it stretches, so you get a way slimmer fit without having to sacrifice all that movement. Bird Dog also figured this out. Look, if you're planning on going to FCS games, you're supporting the Patriot League. Maybe you're planning to go check out a game this year. Maybe it's Cooper Field. You're going down there in Washington D.C. It's just maybe it's going to be hot in August, and you're saying, "Damn, all right, I'm gonna be sweating. The humidity's crazy." Well, man, throw on some Bird Dogs, all right? Because their anti-stink sweat wicking fabric keeps you cool and dry and smelling all right all day long. You don't want to smell like Christian Slater when you're in the stands sitting next to everybody. All right. Especially if you're with your partner. All right. So go to birddogs.com/pool, enter that promo code pool. That's POOL for a free Yeti style tumbler with your order. They're going to give you a tumbler. You can take it to the game, throw a little vodka, a little, who knows what else in there, and you'll be having a good old time. That's birddogs.com/pool for a free Yeti style tumbler. You won't want to take your Bird Dogs off. We can promise you that. All right. We are back on the FCS college football experience. And look, we're talking Patriot League football. What is not to like? And I figured the best way to preview this, because we're out of practice with this, is brand new. Now, I did do the FCS show on the college football experience the past couple of years, but I didn't get a chance to really break down the conferences preseason. So this is out of practice a little bit here. But the way I figured it is we would rattle off our order on who we think will be I think we all know who the best team is. And if you follow Patriot League football, you will, I think everyone knows, but so let's go from worst to first, the way that the way that I think is easiest for the listener. And we'll try to be optimistic about the chances for each team coming into 2023. So without any further ado, the team that I had rated last, I wonder if it's a team that you had rated last. And unfortunately, I am a big fan of them because I grew up in this area, and I want them to focus more into football, because this, if you know your history, a long time ago they took football a lot more seriously. Talk about the Georgetown Hoyas. All right, I have the Georgetown Hoyas as my look. I think it's a big year for their head coach Rob Scarlatta, and I'm actually surprised. You can tell this is Georgetown because, I feel like a lot of other situations in college football, you would not be given this big of a pass. Now, Georgetown's been known as a basketball school, but long time ago, they have a great football history. He is 25-62 as the head coach of the Hoyas, former Georgetown running back. And that might be what's keeping, they're giving him a little longer leash because he's one of them. He is a Hoya. He was an assistant after he was a player from 90 to 93, became assistant from 95 to 2013, really paid his dues there. But the reality is he has yet to have a winning season. And this is year 9. Now he's had a couple 5 and 6 seasons in 18 and 19, but damn, if he hasn't had a winning season. I'm curious, were they your least ranked team?
Yeah, I was pretty confident that we would both have them at the bottom here. I mean, he is 25-62 since 2014, which is like startling to see that he still has a job. But the program as a whole has had just one winning season in the 2000s. 2011, they went 8-3, and that's pretty much it. I'm combing through all kinds of stuff, like notable alumni. Comedian Jim Gaffigan was actually a wide receiver for this university. So he didn't strike me as the uber athletic type. So if that's the type of football player we've been putting through this program for years, I mean, they definitely need to focus a little bit more on this sport. So maybe bring in alumni Jim Schwartz from the old Lions head coach. Maybe bring him in, figure something out. But yeah,
Joe Moorhead coached here too
Yes.
in the 90s or late 80s, I believe. So no, I think 90s. I think it was the 90s, late 90s. But this is a program that does go back. They played in the Orange Bowl, against Mississippi State back in well, it was a long time ago. But I think it was the early 1900s. But my point is that they've been playing a long time. They have some history to their program. I know their program went away for a couple of years, but they brought it back. And, I just feel like it's put up or shut up time. This has got to be the year that they either surprise or they're done, or he's done, I would assume. But look, last season, I tried to get optimistic. I look back at what happened. They got their ass kicked pretty much every game last year. So I don't know how one should be super optimistic about the Hoyas. Their quarterback got plucked away in the portal from a year ago in Pierce Holly. He's now at Eastern Illinois. So I don't know if you're supposed to be coming into the season saying, hey, we can really do something here. But I'll say this. All right. You look back at last season and they had a 2-point loss to Lehigh, right? They had an overtime loss to Bucknell. So those are the only 1-score losses. The rest, they got their ass whooped, honestly. Monmouth. I know Monmouth now in the CAA, 45-6 win against them. Columbia out of the Ivy League, 42-6 win against them. The Quakers of Penn put up 59. Fordham, obviously we know Tim DeMorat and they were really good, put up 59 on the Hoyas. They just got their ass whooped pretty much every game. Maybe you can make a case. Colgate game was a little closer than the final score. Colgate ended up winning by 10. But they lost their best guy. Their best guy gets taken away in the portal in Pierce Holly. They have Tyler Knoop, I think it is Knoop, I think it is, and they have Knoop played a little bit last season. He's back for his senior year. I think taking advantage of the COVID eligibility thing. They also have Connor Katz. He didn't play last year, but he started. I don't think he started actually. He played in a couple games in the 21 season. So they got those two quarterbacks. But I don't think it matters. I think, the defense gave up almost 37 points a game last season. That is the number one concern, the defense, but also losing your best quarterback and your top wideout. I don't know what to really be optimistic about. Maybe I'm wrong, and Tyler Knoop can be, someone that I'm perhaps underestimating. What's your take of this roster?
Yeah, I don't think I could put my confidence in Mr. Knoop. I just don't like the name. Not a strong football name, I don't think. Yeah, you hit on it. They lost Joshua Tomas, 1,200 yards, 10 touchdowns. They got their 2 top running backs back, but they didn't do anything to write home about, really. They lost an O lineman that was a former 3-star recruit, actually, but Sam Teleza, he transferred to New Mexico, so they lost that. They do have a defensive back, Wedner Cadet. He had 5 interceptions and 125 yards on the returns last year. So that's like the highlight player that I was able to dig up on this team. There's not a whole lot of excitement there in Cooper Field. So I'm on the same page as you, man.
Yeah, their top tackler too, Justin Fontenot, I think is gone as well. So but once again, I guess there's 2 ways to look at this. If your defense was that ass last year, you can't get much worse, right? And maybe you can make a case that the schedule could be easier. I don't think I think it's highly unlikely that the Patriot League sends 2 this year to the FCS playoffs. So you have that going for you. And then the non-con seems a little bit easier than a year ago. They still play Penn, which is probably going to whoop them. If anything, they got to go to Franklin Field, that legendary stadium, but they also got to go to the Columbia Lions, and then they get Stonehill, and Stonehill's actually decent. So I don't know. I just feel like they're the worst team, but I feel like this is a team, growing up in the area, they got to throw some money into this program. Georgetown has money. All right. They have money. Take football more seriously, please. So look, I'm glad we agree on the worst team now it gets interesting though. Now it gets interesting because this is only a 7-team conference, right? And I'm curious who we have at number 6 here, because I rated it as the Bucknell Bison. I'm curious who you had at number 6.
Really close. I had the two teams, the next two teams of mine have the same record, but I had Bucknell actually beating the Lehigh Mountain Hawks. They get them on the road, or they're at Bucknell. Lehigh goes to Bucknell. Plus, they got a new first-year head coach, Kevin Cahill, coming over from Yale. He was the offensive coordinator there. So while I do think there's some pieces there at Lehigh, I trusted what Bucknell has going a little bit more. So I have Lehigh.
Interesting. Okay. Well, let's talk then about Lehigh. See, this is the reason why I did take them, is because the Mountain Hawks, they do have a new head coach. And to me, you look back at last year, their defense obviously was a huge problem at 29, basically 30 points a game they're giving up, which was not the worst in the league, which is crazy. Kevin Cahill comes in from Yale. Yale has a good program, and that offense has been able to move the ball. So to me, one of the biggest problems for Lehigh, and believe it or not, we watch a decent amount of Georgetown and Lehigh football here at the SGPN studios, because Stacking the Money Green is a Lehigh guy. And since I'm in DC, I throw Georgetown up there normally pretty much every Saturday. So, but it got ugly last year. I got to be honest. We turned it off a little bit, but Lehigh's offense was ass last year. 17 points a game. That's just not gonna cut it. You know what I mean? So the defense got to get better. But you tell me you bring back a senior quarterback in Dante Perry, and you get a coach that knows a little bit about offense. I tend to think the offense can't get much worse. So, and you bring back your top running back in Gage Garcia, and I'm starting to think, hey, the Mountain Hawks might be better than I think. Now, the defense, you could argue the defense could get worse, because clearly you can get worse. I look at Georgetown; they gave up 36.5 points a game. Meanwhile, Lehigh was just 30. I just think, I think that the roster coming in with that experience and knowing the coach's track record, I give him a leg up on Bucknell, but clearly you do not. That'll be fun to watch. What's your take on this Lehigh team?
I mean, it was very interesting to dig into them a little bit. I mean, they're 40th all time in program wins, 680. They got 10 Patriot League titles. They were Division II national champs in 1977. So, I mean, there's a lot of history to this. Obviously, them and the Lafayette. I mean, that's one of the oldest rivalry. It is the oldest rivalry in college football. It's oldest rivalry. You know, so I mean, it's awesome. There's so much history to it, but it was just a lot of the new. Now, I am interested in Gage Garcia. He was a former 3-star back, and Kevin Cahill does like to run the ball, so that could be pretty interesting. He only had 618 yards last year, but it was on 4.8 yards average per carry. So maybe get him the rock a little more. Decrease Dante Perry's interceptions. He threw 9 interceptions to just 12 touchdowns last year, so a little rough there. This is a team that could turn a corner and could turn a corner with this coach. I do believe in the coach, but I'm just not sure right off the bat this year, especially with games like the Bucknell game being on the road. They got a tough out of conference with Merrimack, with Monmouth on the schedule. Villanova too. I mean, that's rough. So
yeah, no, the non-con's brutal. The non-con is brutal. The non-con is what? Villanova, Merrimack, and then they get 2 Ivy. They honestly have a pretty hard out of conference schedule with what? Cornell, Dartmouth, and Monmouth. Yeah. So I understand. That's a great point that you make, though, is maybe I'm underestimating the schedule, because, you know, they get back-to-back away at Dartmouth and at Monmouth. I don't think they'll be favored in any of those games. Actually, they're probably going to start out 0-5, to tell you the truth.
And then they follow that back-to-back with a third road trip to Fordham.
Yeah. And, you know, I know Fordham loses Demorat and those wideouts, but I kind of trust the product that Fordham's doing. You're probably right. They're probably going to start out 0-6, and then thankfully they'll get Georgetown, but then they get Bucknell, and that's a possible win. But you make a good point. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see year one. I just feel like Yale has been somewhat of a pretty damn good school in the Ivy League. So maybe Cahill can come in and ignite them. Let's talk about the team that I had ranked so far back, the Bucknell Bison, where Dave Cecchini I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. He's in year 5. Now, this is one you go back and look, and I actually think they're a little grateful to give him a 5th year. Do you think I'm crazy there? Because I mean, this team's offense. I actually had that Sacred Heart game on week 1 last year. It was pretty hilarious because everyone was telling me to change it here at the studio when we were watching our games. And I was like, no way, dude. Look at that score. Well, they won 6-0 in that game. And you thought, hey, there's reason to be optimistic. I'm sorry. No, that was the Lafayette Sacred Heart game. Actually, it was not the Bucknell game. My bad. No, I think Bucknell's they were just a terrible offensive team. They were a terrible offensive team. They had multiple games where they got shut out. This is the worst offense in the league. And I don't understand unless it's a financial thing, but I know these schools got money. It's just that they give them a long leash. I'm not rooting for anyone to get fired. I just don't understand how you can back a team that averaged 12 points per game a season ago. 12 points a game. I mean, the defense was actually, the defense gave up 28 points per game, but I feel like that's a little bit diluted. Like when you dive into the stats on that, I think the defense was better than they're on the field all the time. First off, because the offense sucks. They held Towson to 14 points. I actually think the defense wasn't that bad. Okay, Holy Cross put up 57 on them, but Holy Cross was really good. Fordham, another playoff team, put up 59 on them. That dilutes the stats a little bit. You look at what they did in the other games. I feel like the defense was actually like the rock of the team, and the team's terrible. I don't know that they're going to be better this year from an offensive standpoint. Talk to me about Bucknell and why you think they should be better than Lehigh this year.
Honestly, what I think it mostly comes down to, I had them both getting 2-4 in conference. They get Lehigh at home. They get Georgetown at home. I like those facts. I feel pretty good about it. I mean, they beat Lehigh last year at Lehigh 19-17. So it's not so much a crazy play for Bucknell. It's just the situation that they do get them at home. Now, this team, they were held under 20 points in 9 of 11 games last year. That's really, really rough. They do bring in a transfer, Eric Weatherly from Duke. He was originally recruited 3-star running back for Duke. He's now going to play wide receiver. This guy got offers from UAB, Ball State, USF, FAU, Bowling Green, Kentucky, Coastal Carolina, Southern Miss, and then obviously Duke, where he eventually went. He played in 2022. He had like 2 carries. One of them, though, was a touchdown. And it was a pretty decent little 15, 16-yard run. So not bad. I think he could make a little bit of noise. They had a former 2-star recruit. Didn't even know they really ranked him that low. But safety Brent Jackson, who had 82 tackles last year, 4 interceptions, 3 sacks. So he's a little bit of a ball hawk all over the place. Yeah, it's not that I think this team they've fallen a long way since winning the first ever Orange Bowl, 26-0 over Miami. But yeah, they've fallen from there. But I just think I like the fact that they get Georgetown and Lehigh at home.
That is true. I actually like kind of the end of the schedule here, but the beginning is at JMU where they're going to get just absolutely pummeled. And I guess you can make a case. You know, VMI, I believe, is breaking in a brand new head coach in Danny Rocco, the former Delaware Blue Hen and Richmond Spider head coach. Maybe they could pull an upset because brand new scheme there. After that, they get a bye week before the Penn Quakers come to town for homecoming. Then they head to Lafayette, and then Holy Cross, then at Cornell. I mean, I kind of feel like the backside of the schedule of Lehigh. So starting like October 21st, Lehigh comes to town. Then you go to Andy Kerr Stadium, take on Colgate. They are back-to-back away at Fordham. But hey, to me, like, okay, you're probably going to lose the Fordham game, but that's only one hard game. Then you have home to Georgetown and at Marist. This they could really end the season well. You're talking me into me being wrong on my own picks because of the schedule there. I think maybe you are right, but man, that offense was so bad. It was so bad that I have a hard time. This is last year was year 4, and the offense is supposed to show a little more signs of life than, say, you know, in year 1 or 2 you can get away with the offense being that bad, but year 4, we'll see. Big year for the Bison. All right, so to recap right now,
real quick, the funny thing too is Cecchini, if that's how you want to say it. Your guess is as good as mine, but he was 17-38 at Valpo too. So this guy, like, he just keeps going, man, and not winning any games. But.
Failing upward.
Yeah,
Upward. Let's
right?
go. All right, now look, I'll preview one more team, then we'll head to a commercial break. But to recap right now, Georgetown is the 7th ranked team in the Patriot League for us. Then the Lehigh. He's talked me into switching my opinion. I think Lehigh will probably be 7th. I'm interested though. I'm going to be following that storyline throughout the year of how Cahill does in year 1 and see if Dante Perry and Gage Garcia coming back for the Mountain Hawks will be enough to get them better than Bucknell. But I think the schedule's better for Bucknell. I would love to see some signs of offense for me to really feel good about me declaring them better than Lehigh. But let's stick to it. I think the schedule's easier. Okay, so that means we only have 4 teams left. This is where it gets a little tricky. Because I struggled with this part. I am gonna go with Lafayette. It was between them, Colgate, and Fordham here. I thought Fordham could really regress, but then you dive a little deeper into it. You see who's back, and you say, okay, and who they got in the portal. I went Lafayette. I don't feel amazing in it, about this play, but especially considering that John Troxel, that was year 1 last year, so I feel like the team will be better in year 2. They return Ashawn Davis at the quarterback spot, Jamar Curtis at the running back spot. Damn, I'm talking myself into thinking they could finish number 2. I don't know. Like, I just feel like Colgate with bringing back quarterback Michael Breshka. I think that's a big thing for them to bring back. So I'm actually going to go Lafayette. What are you doing here as far as essentially 4th place in the Patriot League?
So I had Colgate. I was between Colgate and Lafayette right here. I feel pretty similar about the two of them. Now, I am definitely lower on Fordham than what they put up last year. I don't think they're going to be the same type of team, but I still think that team has enough. I think they have enough of a culture. I think they have a few pieces remaining. They still got the coach going. So I went Colgate here. I think this was really tough between them and Lafayette. There was a couple pieces of Lafayette I liked a little better. So I went with the Raiders.
Well, you look back at the Raiders season a year ago. We'll talk about them first because they had a nice win week 2. First off, crazy travel to open the season back-to-back away. They were in Palo Alto against Stanford of the FBS, and then they went to Maine. I don't think you can go. I mean, short of Hawaii to Maine, that is a ridiculously far trip. But they beat the Maine Black Bears, who are a decent program. I know Maine had a tough year last year, but they're a decent program historically, or at least of late, past 20 years in the CAA and the FCS here. They beat them, and then I thought they played Penn tough, considering how Penn beat, some of the other schools in this conference. 24-14 loss. They played them tough. Obviously they got destroyed by Holy Cross. Then they were right there. And I remember watching this game against Cornell. They lose by 3 to Cornell in the Ivy League. They then get a bye week. Then they did get destroyed by Army, but then they beat Georgetown by 10. They beat Bucknell the following week, had a little bit of a win streak going, but then Lafayette beat them by 5, just 5 points. Now that was in Hamilton, New York at Colgate. So I can understand the reason maybe for you thinking they got to go to Lafayette this year. But even after that, I feel like the Lehigh game, they lose by 3. Fordham game, Fordham was really good. They kept it within 14. I just don't think the team is as bad as their record indicates from a year ago, 3-8. And you tell me that you're returning, you're leading your quarterback that not only was, obviously your quarterback, but he led the team in rushing. He led the team in rushing a year ago for them and Michael Breshka. Talk to me about Colgate and why you think they're going to end up there.
I was distracted by the comments there for a second. Did you bet some MLB tonight?
I did not bet some MLB tonight, but shout out to Saint Vendrell and Nathan Cerna. There we go. Someone made some money on MLB. Sure. Shout out to that. All right. Remember to bet the FCS though, because the FCS is awesome football. But so the Colgate Raiders, I know you, and here's another thing is if you pull up the schedule for what Colgate has this year, you could make an argument that it's a lot harder than last year. They're at Syracuse to open the season, back-to-back away at Villanova. Now Villanova they're like a blue blood in the FCS. They were down last year. Like that was not a normal year for Villanova football. So we're expecting Villanova to be a lot better this year. So I would say you're probably right. They're going to start out 0-2, but then the Penn Quakers come to Andy Kerr Stadium. They gave Penn a tougher game. I know they still lost that game. I know we had to favor Penn, but maybe they can get that one. And then brutal. So at Holy Cross and then at Cornell. I think they might be able to get Cornell, but they're going to lose at Holy Cross, as we'll get to in a bit. But 4 road games in their first 5 weeks. What are you doing, athletic director? What's going on here? Then they host Dartmouth, and then they're at Georgetown taking on Bucknell, then at Lafayette, home to Lehigh, home to Fordham. See, I think they can close the season. I like the back end of the schedule, but I hope they don't quit on the team, because there is a real shot that they could be 0-5. I'm gonna call for them to be 1-4 and upset Cornell, but they could be 0-5 heading into their bye week, and maybe that is the reason why I should have Lafayette ahead of Colgate. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I got them 1-4. I actually have them pulling the upset against Penn. I think hard fought game last year. That's one of the better teams over there in the Ivy League, and I think they're going to pull it off at home. I like the pieces of this team. You mentioned Michael Breska, 2021 Patriot League Rookie of the Year. He had 1,600 passing yards, 750 rushing yards last year. They bring back some defense. They bring back linebacker Tyler Flick, 81 tackles, a sack, and a fumble forced last year. So, they have some pieces. This is a storied program, actually. They have 11 trips to the FCS playoffs. Last one in 2018. They had a national championship appearance in 2003. Sure, they got waxed by Delaware. Whatever. 1932, they went 9-0, 234-0 against opponents. Yeah, they're referred to as undefeated, untied, unscored upon, and uninvited, because in classic Colby Dant rant history here, they were not invited to the Rose Bowl, but they were nominated as Park H. Davis national champs that year. So a little bit of consolation.
Own it, baby. Own it.
Yes, you got to take it, man.
Yeah.
Take it where you could get it. But I don't have them being world beaters. I have them 5-6, and I have them 3-3 in conference. But I think they get Dartmouth. I think you got Georgetown, Bucknell. I think they could take them, and you get Lehigh at home. So I like some things about this team. I just like the Lafayette a little bit more. That's all.
Well, I think Lafayette might have an easier schedule, but we'll dive into that in a minute. But Breska back is such a big deal. I plan to watch a little Raider football, and I think Syracuse fans out there get to know the name Michael Breska, because the guy was pretty damn good last year. But okay, look, before we get to Lafayette, I want to tell you folks out there that the FCS college football experience is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Yes, Best Ball Mania is here, and Underdog Fantasy is giving away $15 million in prizes. Underdog Pick'em is a great way to get down on your favorite MLB and NFL season player props. They also have college football when the season goes to kick. Check it out. So many ways to win over on Underdog, and Underdog is available in so many different states. Head over to UnderdogFantasy.com. Use that promo code SGPN for 100% deposit bonus up to $100. Once again, that's UnderdogFantasy.com. Promo code SGPN. All right. We are back on the FCS college football experience, which you should be subscribed to. Remember, folks, you can watch this on YouTube, youtube.com/college experience. You can watch it live. We have all of our feed going through the college experience FBS show as well as the college basketball experience and the college baseball experience. So check it out and subscribe to all those solo podcast feeds if you can. Now we talk about the Lafayette Leopards, which I am intrigued. And I will notice this: Colgate was 2-3 in 1-score games a year ago. Lafayette, though, was 3-1 in 1-score games, and they were with the first-year coach in John Troxell. Ashawn Davis is back, and he was young. Like, he's got years to go at Lafayette, and same with Jamar Curtis. So they went with the youth movement, and they weren't terrible. So I can see the logic. Year 2, they're going to know the system better. Offensively and defensively, they do, though, once again, challenge themselves schedule-wise. And this is the question I think I would ask you: is this schedule harder than Colgate's? Because at Duke, is that's a Power 5 that I think Duke is better than Syracuse. Then Monmouth in the CAA, who's a solid program. And then to me, the big one here is the Princeton Tigers are really good. So I in a way you could build the case that this schedule's harder than Colgate's, but I'm curious your thoughts in general about the team, and then get to the schedule and give me your thoughts there. What do you make of the Leopards in 2023?
Yeah, so one thing that I like is John Troxel. He's it seems to be a theme in this conference. Actually, he was a former safety for Lafayette in 1990 through 1993. Went 4-7 last year, but in D3 at Franklin and Marshall, he went 92-67. So this is a guy that won on that level. We've seen those guys pan out. Lance Leipold, Caleb DeBauer, those guys that go down and they win big in D3, the lower divisions of college football. They know what they're doing. They know how to coach. So I like his chops there. I like that this is one of the oldest programs in the United States, college football in general. They have 3 national championships that they can claim, 6 undefeated seasons, which I know you would call all 6 of them national championships.
Own that shit. Own that shit, man. And look, this is the NIL era. These universities have money. All it takes is them to want to be good, because in the NIL era, not only do they have alumni that are very successful out in the world. I mean, I know I'm cutting you off, but like if they wanted to, me and Patty C have been talking about this, like the Ivy League, the Patriot League, if they wanted to, they could just say, all right, we're going to take football serious again. Oh, yeah. I would love to see it. I would love to see it. But anyway, continue on.
No, absolutely. You're absolutely right. I mean, if the money's there, chuck it. And you know these alumni have it. So let's do it. I mean, this is a storied program. So they have an O lineman on their team, 6'6" John Olmstead, former 4-star recruit that transferred in from Notre Dame. His problem, he can't stay healthy. That man stays healthy, that's going to help out your Ashawn Davis. That's going to help out Jamar Curtis. That's going to help out Elijah Stewart, also wide receiver, comes back. So they do lose Malik Ham, which was a D lineman last year, 8 sacks, 2 fumbles forced. He was the conference defensive player of the year. So that's a big loss right there. But my point overall is that I think Troxel is going to have this program that has a lot of history. I think he has them going in the right direction, and I trust his pedigree in the D3. So tough conference, or a tough out of conference schedule. But when you're talking conference, I like that they get Bucknell at home. Colgate, who I have them close to in conference, they get them at home. You go on the road for back-to-back against Holy Cross, but your second game is against Georgetown, which I think they can easily beat them. So very interesting. I think they're just a hair above. I like what this team's doing.
Yeah, and Ashawn Davis, he was young last year. He was very young last year. I know he didn't light it up. He threw only 6 touchdowns and 4 interceptions, but they kind of used three different quarterbacks. But Davis, I think, will be the starter if I had to bet. Once again, we don't have the greatest intel on this, but I think if you look at the reps he did last year, he's back for his junior season. I think he should be the man under center when they start the season. But the run game, not very good a season ago. So, but it was a freshman, Jamar Curtis from Waldorf, Maryland, and maybe year 2. They develop that more. It is a brand, like we said, I understand the logic in taking them because that was year 1. You're learning the system. Most all coaches, I feel like, kind of struggle year 1 unless your name's Sonny Dykes. All right. I mean, I think the schedule's a little harder than Colgate's, but I'll stick to mine. We could argue this as the season goes along because I will have Colgate ahead of Lafayette right behind Colgate. But now we get to the cream.
You're a toothpaste, brother. I'm a leopard. I feel good about it. I'll take it. You're toothpaste.
I'll take my toothpaste, baby. Let's go. All right. But yeah, the top 2 teams, and I think this is the thing with the Patriot League is it's pretty obvious. I think there's a clear tier here, and I don't know. Even though Tim DeMorat's now with the Washington Redskins, and he was awesome last year. If you didn't watch him in the FCS, they almost knocked off the Ohio Bobcats, who were a 10-win team in the MAC. That was a great game. No defense, but great game from an offensive standpoint and a quarterback performance. But now you have the Fordham Rams. Joe Conlon said 3 straight winning seasons. I'm buying into his culture that he's built there. Yes, they took some major hits at the wide receiver and the quarterback spot, but they brought in CJ Montez, a transfer from New Mexico. Now, I don't know if this is gonna. I watched a decent amount of New Mexico football. They were not a pass-heavy team by any means, so I don't know if this changes their philosophy as far as the way that they're going to. When you have Tim DeMora, you could do anything. You could really stretch teams vertically. I don't know that they'll be doing that, but still getting a P5 transfer in there to play quarterback, you got to be optimistic about that. They were 9-3 a season ago, made it to the FCS playoffs, lost at New Hampshire by 10. And obviously the big game of the season, I think everyone remembers, was the Holy Cross game where there was over 100 points scored. They lost in overtime. But coming into this year, I think the schedule. I expect regression, but not that much because I believe in this coach and I believe in the coaching staff. They're at Albany week 0 in a game that I'm super excited about because we only have like 11 football games during week 0. That is on Flow Sports, so good luck. I mean, I have Flow Sports, but a lot of people out there, I know the bitching and moaning, but that is a huge game. And I think that's a winnable game. I know Albany brings back Reese Poffenberger, but I think that's a winnable game. Then they have Wagner, who's been just ass. So I think they could be 2-0. Then they head to UB Stadium to take on the Buffalo Bulls. Holy Cross beat Buffalo a year ago, but I do not expect Fordham to beat Buffalo at Buffalo. So there's that. Then they get a bye week and the Stonehill Skyhawks come to the Bronx. That is a interesting game that I think is losable for them. Then they're at Georgetown, win. Home to Lehigh, win. Then they go to take on Stony Brook. Stony Brook, I don't expect them to be lighting the world on fire this year, but I think it is a sneaky game. I will take Fordham to win that game, but I could also see them losing that. They get a bye week and then they're hosting Holy Cross. Nice bye week to be hosting the team's best or the conference's best team. Then they get the Bucknell Bison at home and then they're at Lafayette and at Colgate to end the season. I do think they're still going to end up the second best team, but I do think there is still a gap. And I think the gap is even bigger this year than it was a season ago between them and Holy Cross. Talk to me about the Fordham Rams, Mike.
Yeah, same exact page as you're on. I trust the coach and I trust the system. You see a quarterback like Tim DeMorat leave, and you're not going to automatically replace that the next year. There's no way. But I think they could still put up pretty good numbers. Now, they also lose 2 big-time wide receivers. Good luck saying that one. But this dude had 1,300 yards and 15 touchdowns.
Fotis Kuko Sololis.
There you go.
Dude,
yeah,
hold on.
God bless you, man.
Just so the audience knows, DeMorat threw 56 touchdowns and 10 interceptions. He's in the NFL now. And they had 3,000-yard receivers. So anyway, continue on.
Who's he play for?
The Redskins. Yes. The Redskins.
I got a friend that still refers to the Charlotte Hornets as the Charlotte Bobcats. And I'm like, dude, they were the Charlotte Bobcats for like 3 years. Why do you do this? But the Redskins, you got a better hill to die on. So I
grew up in that town. They're Redskins forever, man. I don't give a fuck.
But yeah, so they lose that guy, and they lose DeCoos Carter, who also had 1,100 yards, 13 touchdowns. Now they do bring back MJ Wright, 1,100 yards, 11 touchdowns. Makai Felton, which 500 yards and 6 touchdowns. Amazing that he still got 500 yards with all the 3,000-yard receivers they had. They lose their leading rusher, Trey Snead, as well, but they return Julius Lockridge, which was he had 929 yards, 8 touchdowns, 7.1 yards per carry last year. So big numbers there. On defense, they have who I think is going to be the defensive player of the year for the conference, James Conway, 127 tackles last year total, 3 sacks and a fumble. There's still pieces. I still trust this program, and they have the victory bell that they ring whenever they win. It was taken off of a World War II Japanese aircraft carrier after it surrendered. You don't really get much more hardcore than that. So I'm behind the team.
Absolutely love it. Now, I mentioned CJ Montez transfers in from New Mexico, but they also could play Grant Wilson. Grant Wilson was 4 or 5 a year ago. He's going to be going into his senior year. Maybe they go with culture there. He only threw 5 passes a year ago, 2 touchdowns out of those 5 though. So doing something right. He's out of Arlington, Virginia. I think they'll still be solid, but I think there's still a big gap, man. And I folks, if you listened to me last year on the FCS, or we didn't have this feed, but it was on the College Football Experience feed. where we cover FBS. I would do an FCS show every week, and I am just extremely bullish on the head coach Bob Chesney, who I think I hate to tell Holy Cross fans this, but I said Boston College. If Jeff Hafley were to, because they say Jeff Hafley's on the hot seat at Boston College, they would be fools not to consider Bob Chesney, in my opinion. Who's 37-17 as a head coach at Holy Cross, and coming off of essentially being 25-5 since COVID. 25-5 since COVID, I repeat. And that includes a 4-game season where they were 3-1 in 2020. But he's done this everywhere he's been. Assumption, he was 44-16. Then his previous stop, he was 23-9. And this guy's a damn good football coach. And when you tell me that Holy Cross still has him coming back for a brand new season, then you have Matthew Saluka, who I call, and like I said, if you listened to the show a year ago, that was my squad, man. I love this Holy Cross team. The guys, we come watch college football games here in the studio. We have this crazy setup. You'll see it throughout the season if you're a first time listener or follow us on social media. We have a TV called the Holy Cross TV where we put that on. We watch the games every single week. And man, I love this team. I just think they're really good. They were tied up in the fourth quarter at Brookings, South Dakota, against South Dakota State, who won the FCS national championship. And that was in the FCS playoffs, folks. Delaware went out there and got their ass whooped. Several teams got their ass whooped by South Dakota State a year ago, and Holy Cross held their own until late. I was so impressed by that game. And Holy Cross, by the way, has 2 straight wins against the FBS. UConn 2 years ago, last year Buffalo. Folks, these aren't scholarship players. Right? This is an unbelievable coaching job. And I know the schedule's challenging because Merrimack, by the way, great first week 1 game because Merrimack's really good. And, unfortunately they haven't been able to compete for championships because of the jump up to the FCS. But that's a huge first week game. Then they go to Boston College week 2, and they follow that with at Yale. So the first 3 weeks, just bangers after banger. Then they get the Colgate Raiders, which is homecoming in Worcester there. Then they get Harvard once again, another great game, and then at Bucknell, and then they're home to they get a bye. Then they're home to Lafayette, at Fordham, so they got to go to Fordham, which could be sneaky. Last year's game was a classic. Back-to-back away here as they head then to Goodman Stadium to take on the Mountain Hawks of Lehigh, and then the sneaky game in there, November 11th at Army. They have Holy Cross has 2 FBS wins in the past 2 seasons. They're looking to do 2 in 1 year, and then they end the season at Fitton Field against the Georgetown Hoyas. And by the way, that Harvard game at Polar Park in Worcester, I'm excited to see that one. But this team's loaded. I think they have a shot. I think the schedule is challenging though. 2 FBSs. They're not going to go undefeated in the regular season like a year ago. I highly doubt that. But I think they're going to dominate the competition in this conference. I just think they're a complete team. I'm impressed with their physicality, knowing that they have no scholarship guys. They do all this, just on straight coaching. I am shocked at the way they were able to hang with South Dakota State with that physicality. I love watching this team play, and I think they're going to dominate the Patriot League yet again. And I think they're going to be in the FCS playoffs. And if I were an opposing coach that's going to be in the FCS playoffs, I wouldn't want to draw them because they make you pay, in my opinion, from a physicality standpoint. And then Saluka is such a dangerous weapon. What do you think of Holy Cross heading into the season?
Yeah, I mean, hands down. I mean, I had them going 6-0 in conference. It is a tad tricky because you do have to go on the road to play Fordham. I mean, that's the only spot I could even see them tripping up as far as in the Patriot League. But we just covered Fordham. They lost so much. I think Holy Cross is just so far above. They return 8 starters on offense, 4 of them on the offensive line. 3 of those guys were all conference. Speaking of all conference, 10 all conference players in total return. You covered Saluka. He's got his main guy, Jalen Coker, as wide receiver. He's also got 2-time all-conference tight end Sean Morris back. 6 starters come back on defense. That was the number 22 D in the FCS last year as far as total defense. Top 20 rushing D They only gave up 21.5 points per game. Cornerback Devin Haskins, he's also back. He had 4 interceptions last year. There's talent all over the place. My air conditioning problems making my computer overheat last week. I didn't get to do the top 10 FCS versus FBS games. I actually had Holy Cross both of their games this year as intriguing matchups that I thought they could potentially win. What do we know about Boston College? When you go and you play there, it's a sleepy environment. I mean, this is a regional battle. This is a battle in Massachusetts. If they get up early, look out. Those fans are already checked out. The 14 of them that are there.
Oh,
so,
I think Holy Cross fans will be there too.
That's a live dog. That's a live dog. Right
I
there.
agree.
And Army's going to be a 1-score game. We already know that. So they could win that game. This team has a chance to beat 2 FBS teams. Bob Chesney has given this team 4 straight Patriot League titles. This team is on a roll. They love it. They got a ton coming back. I love this team. Hands down, by far the best team in this conference.
Yeah, and they're so fun to watch, folks. If you're brand new, maybe you've been listening to our FBS show forever, and you're just giving the FCS a try. Holy Cross is very fun to watch. I think they're a super exciting team, and I think this coach is absolutely fantastic. I'm excited I hope he stays at Holy Cross. I want to see Holy Cross go back in on football all the way, man, because man, they got something brewing there, man. I really like the way they play. I think Saluka is one of the more underrated quarterbacks in all the FCS. And yeah, I think it's a slam dunk here. This is probably easier. I'm trying to think of an FBS conference that would be on this magnitude. Probably Georgia or Alabama winning the SEC over the years, or maybe Ohio State back when like Brady Hoke was the coach of Michigan, where you just knew Ohio State was going to win it. But man, Holy Cross, they're going to be exciting to watch. I love that beginning of the schedule. Like first game, Merrimack, boom. I'm excited to watch it. Then Boston College, then Yale. Sure, you get the Colgate game in there, but then Harvard. Like those first 4 games, that Harvard game, I believe is Polar Park. I think that's like it's at a baseball stadium with their minor league team. So it's going to be fun to watch that one too. And we're going to break down all of those games when the season comes, folks. We're going to be, we will have spreads on these. We'll be breaking down our best plays, talking about who we like for each game also. And remember, we're going to preview each and every conference. We're just getting started, folks. All right. So give us a follow on Twitter at TCE on SGPN, and make sure. And Shane Vendrell says Holy Cross could win the ACC if we're being honest. Interesting. And yeah, he's calling for them to be 10-0. I think that schedule's hard, but I do think they're fucking really good. So I really, they're capable of running that thing. It's just going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see. But yes, please give Mike a follow, as I was trying to get to. He's on Twitter at GCG_wins. Remember, we are on YouTube as the college, youtube.com/the college experience. I'm on Twitter at the Colby Dean. Once again, the FCS College Football Experience is on Twitter at TCE on SGPN. It's going to be an unbelievable season, folks, and we're just getting started. Happy early 4th of July. We wanted to do the Patriot League before. We mentioned how historic these programs were, and a victory bell in World War II, all this great shit. We appreciate all of all the troops out there, including one Mike Rose, by the way. Mike Rose was, I appreciate. People don't know this. GCG wins. Yes, he went over there.
Appreciated, brother.
Dude, you give me the freedom to just be a fucking idiot over here. I appreciate that, man. So
that's why I signed up, dude.
there we go.
Like, let me just let this guy get on the radio, get on podcasts, get on Spotify, say whatever the hell he wants, get sued by men at work, like whatever.
Yes,
Man. This is a free. This is America, man.
God bless that country that where you get sued by playing a song 20 from a band 40 fucking years ago. But folks, shout out. I hope you guys have a wonderful 4th of July. And like I said, we're just getting started here on the FCS College Football Experience. We're going to be previewing all the conferences, talking about all the best storylines, and and capping when the games come. We'll be talking about the best matchups. I honestly believe that Holy Cross Merrimack game is among the tops for week 1. It's up there. There's another one, William and Mary Campbell, that I'm super excited about. We're going to be talking all about it here on the FCS College Football Experience. Subscribe, tell a friend, folks, and have a happy 4th. All right. This is the FCS College Football Experience. You better start thinking about yours. And we out of here. Run, shoot.